Have you ever dreamt of leaving it all behind and traveling the world full time? It's a romantic idea, but for most people, it feels like an impossible dream. The biggest obstacle? Money. How can you afford to travel full time without a steady income? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not only possible, but it's also more affordable than you might think. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain and share my real monthly costs for traveling full time on a budget. I'm going to show you that you don't need to be a millionaire to live a life of travel. So, if you're ready to learn how to make your travel dreams a reality, you're in the right place. First, let's get one thing straight. Traveling full-time on a budget is not a vacation. It's a lifestyle. It's about making conscious choices to live a simpler, more minimalist life in order to prioritize travel. It's about being resourceful, creative, and willing to step outside of your comfort zone. It's not always glamorous, but it's always an adventure. So, how much does it actually cost to travel full-time on a budget? The answer, of course, depends on your travel style and the countries you visit. But to give you a real-world example, I'm going to share my average monthly budget for traveling in Southeast Asia, which is one of the most budget-friendly regions in the world. My average monthly budget is around $1,200 or $40 a day. That includes everything: accommodation, food, transportation, activities, and even a little bit of fun money. Let's break it down. The biggest expense, as always, is accommodation. I typically spend around $400 a month on accommodation. I do this by staying in a mix of private rooms and hostels, guest houses, and Airbnbs. I also do a lot of house sitting, which helps me save a ton of money. By being flexible with my accommodation choices, I'm able to keep my costs low without sacrificing comfort. Next up is food. I spend around $300 a month on food. I do this by eating like a local. I eat at street food stalls, local markets, and family-run restaurants. The food is delicious, authentic, and incredibly cheap. I also cook a lot of my own meals. I always try to book accommodation with a kitchen, which allows me to buy groceries at a local market and cook my own food. This is not only cheaper, but it's also a great way to experience the local food culture. Now, let's talk about transportation. I spend around $150 a month on transportation. This includes everything from long-distance buses and trains to local transportation like tuk-tuks and motorbike taxis. I always choose the cheapest transportation option available, which is usually a local bus or train. It's not always the most comfortable way to travel, but it's a great way to see the country and meet local people. Next is activities. I spend around $150 a month on activities. This includes things like entrance fees to temples and museums, scuba diving trips, and cooking classes. I always try to find free or cheap activities to do, like hiking, visiting local markets, and just wandering around and exploring. I also look for deals and discounts on activities. For example, many museums have free admission days, and you can often get a discount on tours if you book in advance. Finally, I have a miscellaneous category of around $200 a month. This includes things like visa fees, travel insurance, toiletries, and a little bit of fun money for things like a nice meal out or a souvenir. It's important to have a buffer in your budget for unexpected expenses. So, there you have it. My real monthly costs for traveling full-time on a budget in Southeast Asia. $1,200 a month, or $40 a day. That's less than what many people spend on rent in a major city. And it's a small price to pay for a life of adventure, freedom, and discovery. Now, I know that not everyone wants to travel in Southeast Asia. So, how can you create your own budget for full-time travel? The first step is to do your research. Choose a region of the world that you want to explore and then research the cost of living in that region. Use websites like Numbeo to get an idea of how much you'll need to budget for accommodation, food, and transportation. Once you have a general idea of the cost of living, you can start to create a more detailed budget. Track your spending for a month to see where your money is going. Then, look for ways to cut back on your expenses. Can you cook more of your own meals? Can you take public transportation instead of taxis? Can you find free activities to do? Every little bit helps. It's also important to have a source of income while you're traveling. While it's possible to travel for a while on your savings, it's not a sustainable long-term strategy. There are many ways to make money while you're traveling, from freelancing online to teaching English to working in a hostel. I've done a variety of things to make money on the road, and I'll be sharing more about that in a future video. Traveling full-time on a budget is not for everyone. It requires a certain level of flexibility, resourcefulness, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. But if you're up for the challenge, it's an incredibly rewarding way to live. It's a life of freedom, adventure, and constant learning. And it's a life that's within your reach. Remember, these are my personal costs, and your costs may vary depending on your travel style, the countries you visit, and your personal preferences. But the key takeaway is that full-time travel on a budget is absolutely possible. It requires discipline, flexibility, and a willingness to live differently, but the rewards are immeasurable. The freedom, the experiences, and the personal growth that come from long-term travel are worth far more than the money you save. I hope this video has demystified the costs of full-time travel and has shown you that you don't need to be a millionaire to live a life of adventure. If you have any questions about my budget or about full-time travel in general, please leave them in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Travel with Mila for more budget travel inspiration. Until next time, happy travels! Let's talk a bit more about how to make that $1,200 a month a reality. It's not just about spending less, it's about spending smarter. For accommodation, I use a combination of strategies. I'll often book a private room in a hostel for a few nights when I first arrive in a new city. This gives me a chance to get my bearings and meet other travelers. Then, I'll look for a longer-term house sit or a private room on Airbnb. This allows me to have a more comfortable and stable base for a few weeks or even a month. It's a great way to get a feel for a place and to live like a local. When it comes to food, I have a few golden rules. I always eat a big, hearty breakfast. This sets me up for the day and means I can get by with a light lunch or a snack. I also carry a reusable water bottle with me everywhere I go. This saves me a ton of money on buying bottled water, and it's better for the environment. And I'm not afraid to haggle at local markets. It's all part of the culture in many parts of the world, and it can save you a lot of money. For transportation, I'm a big fan of overnight buses and trains. They save you a night's accommodation, and you wake up in a new destination. It's a win-win. I also use ride-sharing apps like Grab and Gojek in Southeast Asia,